well, how'd you get full? You know, how'd you get filled with the Holy Spirit? Well, like he just real softly threw me down on the floor, and I just vibrated all over and puked up a bunch of stuff. Wow. That's not how it happened to me. You know, my pastor laid hands on me and said, yeah, here you go. And so how's that working for you? Well, it's like I sound just like him, talk just like him, you know. But, you know, I was kind of like laid hands on by Jesus, you know. So. Yeah. You're feeling me, aren't you?
Sure, Mom.
Actually, with me, that's quite a story because, you know, I was an alcoholic for years. And I told you that throughout my life that different people, sometimes strangers, would show up and say, Larry, the Lord's calling you. You know, the Lord's trying to talk to you. And they would be perfect strangers. Like one time in '73 on a beach in California, I'm just kind of out there on a Sunday afternoon, just enjoying it. Because, like, you know, I just walked out of a plowed field, and now I'm on a shore in California, and this guy walks up to me, and he says, Larry, I go, how you know my name? He goes, doesn't matter. I go, no, how do you know my name? And he never answered me. I go, well, what's your name? He goes, my name's Levi. I go, hey, that's the tribe of Israel. He goes, you know that? I go, yeah. I go, are you a Jew? He goes, well, yeah. I go, that kind of made sense. He goes, well, anyway, the Lord's been trying to talk to you. And every time somebody would tell me that, I'd get real mad. You know, because, well, it was the truth. And it made me mad. Anyway, I go, well, I don't think so. He goes, yeah, he is. I go, well, I think if he wanted to talk to me, he'd just talk to me and I'd hear him. He goes, well, you don't want to hear him. What? You don't want to hear him. Well, that's not true. Well, yeah, it was. And like the guy would walk off, and, you know, when I was 17, 18, an associate pastor told me that, and a big old barrel-chested preacher told me that one time. And but the spring of 2000, one of my old drinking buddies, Dillard, called me one morning. Cool spring day, needed a decent jacket on outside and stuff, and trying to rain. Called me up, he goes, Larry, he goes, can I come over and, like, talk to you? I go, well, yeah. He goes, well, like, could you, just, like, meet me downstairs in the garage? And I go, sure. I'm thinking, you know, of all the people he knows, he's got a problem, and he called me to come to. I go, man, that's just really cool. I'm even thinking, thanks, Lord. You know, of all the people he knows, he wants to talk to me and share with me and stuff, and discuss this, whatever issues bothering him. I go, all right. I go, he goes, well, about 15 minutes. I go, well, that's kind of driving fast, Eddie. He goes, well, yeah, but I need to break and get over. I go, all right. So I go downstairs and I wait, and he shows up, and he comes in with like a 6-pack of beer, and he goes, you don't mind if I drink a beer, do you? I go, no, go ahead. So stand there, drink a couple beers. I go, all right, Dillard, let's cut to the chase. Why are you here? He goes, well, you know how I like to watch Western movies. I go, yeah, that's what you do every Saturday morning. So that's probably what you was doing this morning, right? He goes, yeah. And I go, so what happened? He goes, well, the Lord told me to come over and talk to you. I go, bull! The Lord don't talk to you, and you don't hear the Lord. He goes, well, this morning I did. I go, the Lord told you to come and talk to me. He goes, yeah. I go, what's up with that? He goes, well, he said he's been trying to get your attention for years, and you're just really hard-headed. I go, yeah, I know I'm hard-headed, but as far as not hearing the Lord, you gotta go, you know, people have been telling me this whole life, and I'm getting really sick and tired of hearing it. He goes, and then start listening to him. And something changed right there, because I knew he was telling me the truth. The Lord had to send a drunk to talk to another drunk. And we have one garage door open, and like I live on a cul-de-sac, and it's like an amphitheater down there. You can't sneeze without somebody down at the end of the street knowing it. And Dillard said this is the only time in his whole life he'd ever spoken a tongue. And by now I'm already mad, but it's kind of like that, Larry, I got you. You know, Jesus says, tag, you're it. I'm not leaving. It's, best way you can put it is God came to my house to get me. Now I'm sure there's people out there go, oh, that won't happen. Well, it will happen. And, you know, if you're not willing to go to his house, he's going to come to your house. Anyway, Dillard said something about junk about the Lord's going to use me and do this and do that. And yeah, right. Well, I think it is. I don't really want to hear this. Yeah, I do. Next thing I know, Dillard's yakking in some kind of tongue I'd never heard of, or some language or something. I'd never been around this stuff. I'd read about it in the Bible, but I'd never heard it or seen it. And I'm kind of like collapsed on my knees over this big pile of carpet. And at first I just felt totally cold. And I've told some people about this, and they go, well, Larry, that wasn't a God thing to feel totally cold. I go, you don't have no understanding, because the coldness was my sin being brought to light. Just when you've been outside in 20-degree wind chill, and you're just cold all over, and it takes you 2 hours in the house to get warm, that's how cold I was. And I knew who I was. And he showed it to me. He revealed it to me. And I don't really know if I thought it or said it or just felt it. Next thing I know, I'm just hot. Just getting warmer and warmer and hotter. And just one after the other, like I was being purged. I read about Charles Finney when he was filled with the baptism of the Holy Ghost, how he vibrated. And I can relate to that, because it's just like, well, an old farm boy, if you've ever used a cattle prod and you shock a cattle, that's what I felt like all the way through. And I guarantee you that Jehovah just totally shocked me. And every time I would look up, Dillard is in this weird tongue talking to something outside my garage door, and he would stand there and listen. He was listening to someone outside my garage door. Then he'd turn around and tell me what he said. More purging, more vibrating. Like I'm being hit by thunder and lightning all at once. And this just doesn't happen to somebody like me. And, okay, but it did. And this goes on for quite a while, about 3 or 4 times. And it got to the point where when he quit talking and he was listening, I was trying to listen. And so this finally comes to an end, and I'm quite sure that the last time that he spoke to Dillard, that I heard him, because he told me to get up. And when I stood up, I noticed that out in front of that garage door in the rain, that there was about a 14 to 20 foot semicircle that was bone dry. I said, Lord, you came to my house to get me, and it started raining. And it was that sweet rain that I've been talking about. It's that sweet rain. You can tell the Lord is there with every sense He gave you. You can feel Him. You can taste Him. You can hear Him. You can see Him. I see Him right now. I see Him right now in Suzanne. You can see the Lord. You can see Him in that tree out there, the leaves blowing. You can smell Him. You can taste Him. All He wants to do is just fill you with His Spirit. You can't get there without it. And you can't get outside without it. You can't go out into the street. You can't be what He wants you to be in a church without being totally vibrated, shocked into your being. If you don't think He's real, then you're just not thinking. If you can't hear His voice, it's your fault, not His. And if you're not full of His Spirit, then somebody just tell me, what spirit are you full of? And if you're not walking, living, and dying for Him, then you're walking, living, dying for the enemy. How do I know this? Because I've been there and I did it.